Hello and welcome to Talk West Ham, where you are in control, where you just phone in just like TalkSport. You choose a topic just like TalkSport, and just like TalkSport, we have an absolute in charge. Yeah, we do actually. But we've got a special one tonight, Gonzo. What have we got in store for the listeners and the viewers?
I thought you were going to say, just like Talk Sport, we've got an annoying guy who likes to be controversial and sort of rambling drunk Scotsman.
Yeah, they're both the same person actually.
They are.
But yeah, we've got a special edition for you tonight. All the guests are going to be from Blowing Bubbles magazine because Gonzo.
Well, this is Blowing Bubbles magazine. This is the May edition. But David, who puts together, that's him there, cheeky face, who puts together this fantastic magazine, he's doing a summer annual, which I think they do every summer. He's going to phone in and hopefully he'll talk about it a little bit and tell us a little bit more. But it's very, very good reading, and some of the writers from this magazine are going to phone up and give us their opinions today, right?
Anyway, enough of me, enough of Gonzo. It's time for phone call number one. Caller number one, what's your name and what are you here to discuss?
So it's David Blackmore from Blowing Bubbles magazine, and I'm here to discuss our finish last season, 11th place. Did we deserve it, or did it flatter us?
Well, what do you think, David? Welcome to Talk West Ham. This is where you're in control. So what do you think? Do you think it flattered us, or do you think that it represented our season overall?
I really do think it flattered us. I honestly think we could have ended up as low as Watford did. You know, we really didn't perform as well this season as we did the season before. High expectations going into this season, and I think we could have finished a lot lower. But then what's so funny about how that season panned out is we could have equally finished, 8th by the end of it, couldn't we?
So, David, are you saying that that phrase, "the table doesn't lie," are you saying that's a myth?
Well, it's so close, isn't it, between those teams? You've very much got like the top six now. Everton, maybe throwing Southampton in, and the rest of that, after that, it's all very much, it seems to be that they're all the same. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think all of those squads, from the likes of Watford and ours, we've all got similar kind of squads now? And is that because of the Premier League money now that all the clubs are buying so much that they've all brought similar kind of style players, and that we're all kind of just picking points off one another?
Gonzo?
Well, I mean, the second point's really sort of taking it away there, because I think sort of 25 million is a new 10 million in that sense, because it is a wash of money. And of course, the new rich list has just come out of the clubs, and I think possibly we were 15th or something like that. But it is absolutely littered. The top 20 clubs in Europe, or the world, should I say, is absolutely littered with Premier League clubs. So whereby Leicester are actually in 19th. Now, I know they won the Premier League last year, but Leicester in the 19th richest club in the world. There are some big clubs below them, some big European prestigious names. In terms of finishing and warranting your place, certainly Leicester the season before last, should I say, they were the best team in the league because they won. I'm a big, big believer in that. But so I'm going to contradict myself now, because I do think that it did lie. I definitely think the table lied. I think it did flatter us. We took some whoopings, some big old whoopings during the season. We shipped a lot of goals, and I think we certainly benefited from some poorer teams in the league. I'm not sure at the end you finished where you deserved to finish, but I do think it flattered us.
I get what you're saying, Gonzo, but David, I'll put this to you. I seen you nodding there, agreeing with Gonzo when he said we had a few whippings, and that's correct. But Bournemouth conceded less than us, but they finished above us, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I think the thing this season, what I found this season compared to last season was that this season I think we played better against the teams lower down in the table. I think the season before we were obviously doing much better than teams above us, and I think it's back to kind of those old days where the top 4 or 5 teams, home or away, you're kind of expecting a defeat and you're hoping for a draw. And I think, I'm not sure about you guys, but that's how it felt this season for me. Whenever we were playing Man City or Arsenal, we'd get a draw. Whereas the season before that, every time we was playing, even a farewell bowling game, Man United at home, I thought, what, we're going to get something here. And we've gone from having that attitude where we think we can actually take on these big teams and get 3 points against them. And suddenly this season, just not had anything of it. And one point I want to pick up from Gonzo as well is, do you think there will be 3 worse teams in West Ham next season. Do we think we need to have that mentality already?
Well, before I ask Gonzo to answer that, what I will say, David, is we were 5th out of 14. If you take away that top 6 club, we finished 5th out of the rest of the table. There's a top table, the rest of the table, we finished 5th. I think that's where West Ham are as a club and as a team. So I think we finished in our true position. But Gonzo, just quickly, do you want to answer David's question there? Are you worried that we could be in a scrap next season?
No, I'm not. I think this was it's a bit of a cliche, but I do think it was a season of transition. The move to the stadium was hard. I'm the last person to make excuses for everybody. I really am. But I do think it was a factor. There is some mitigation there. And there are certainly going to be 3 worse teams than West Ham in the league next season. And you can cut and paste that little snippet and use it in the future if I'm wrong. But we are not in danger.
Well, final question for you, David, before we say cheerio. If you're thinking that 11th was a false position for West Ham, if you like, last season, right now, where are you thinking we should be finishing? What do you think we should be finishing next season as it is?
Well, I think the expectation for me going into the season was definitely to have a top half finish. I would like to have 11th, 10th again going into next season, but I'd just like there to be more consistent performances. I think May summed up our season as a whole. Beat Tottenham, hammered to Liverpool, beat Burnley, who didn't lose that many points today, at home over the course of the season. So just want more consistency, I think, over the next season.
Well, thank you very much, David, for popping on, and I'm sure we'll see you again in the future, and best of luck with your Blown Bubbles magazine.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Caller number 2, what's your name and what are you here to chat about?
My name's Holly, and I'm here to talk about bringing the youth into the first team.
And how this is an interesting one, because I have a theory, but before I get into that theory, Holly, who is it you'd like to see come into your youth team next season?
I'd like to see Oxford and Martinez mostly. I feel they've both probably got quite a lot to give. I think it'd be really interesting to see how they can actually do in the first team. But I think obviously to find that out, you do need to give them some game time in the first place. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
So if you're taking in Oxford, what are you then doing with Reece Burke, who is older than him and now into his 20s?
That is a very good question. So to be fair, I would like to give everybody a try, but I do think it's difficult to kind of balance it. I'd be more interested at the moment personally to see what Oxford has to give to the team. And obviously, if it isn't working, then perhaps rethink my decisions.
Gonzo Holly is there saying Oxford and Martinez. Is that the 2 you would like to see brought in?
I'd like to see any of them, and not all of them brought in, because then we just have a youth team, wouldn't we? But we were sort of hoodwinked with Oxford a little bit because Bilic's first game, he played Oxford. So I think at that point we thought, wow, and we're going to get onto your theory in a second, which I know already. I know what you're going to say because you've been quite consistent on it. But I think at that point we thought, hello, we've got a manager here who's going to bring youth into the team. Of course, he was excellent in that game. I think he started the next game after the Arsenal game, and then he didn't play quite so well. And then that was it. So, I think Ollie's main point, we need to see a bit more of the youngsters, certainly because they've been a drip, just a couple of them dipping their toe in the water, so to speak. I think in wide areas, I think we're a little bit lacking in wide areas. Certainly, as it stands at the moment, a centre forward, Martinez would be a good shout because our centre forwards are always injured or sort of non-existent or have gone back on loan, sort of thing. I guess if we're going to rectify that, which is what we think, we might bring in a couple of strikers. Maybe Martinez might find it hard. I do think one area that's not been spoken about is on the wing and a sort of creative guy. And I would like to see perhaps Nathan Holland or Queen are given some bench time to come off and see what they can do. So I certainly would imagine there'd be better options than perhaps playing Snodgrass there.
Holly, do you think it's risky for a manager to play youth in a way? Do you think maybe your chances of losing through fault of a player increases if you play youngsters?
I think it's difficult. We had that game, didn't we, a couple of seasons back where we played Nottingham Forest and got absolutely smashed because we pretty much played all of the youth at once. So I think obviously you've got to be careful about how many you're putting on, but I would like to see at least a couple getting a chance on and off and see if that can actually help bring them up, because I think it's so difficult until they've actually got some experience to be able to go in there. Like, we were giving Oxford like barely any time on the pitch, and it's difficult in 20 minutes to be able to make a difference. And even like, I don't feel we've been in enough winning positions to give the youth players enough time this season to be able to actually show what they're capable of. But I think they definitely need the chance to be able to have any chance of moving up and actually playing in the first team.
I think every West Ham fan will agree with you, Holly. And what I'm going to say here isn't me disagreeing with you. It's just, this is just my theory as to why Bilic can't play youth next season. That is, Holly, he's got 1 year left on his contract, right? So next season, arguably, well, I'd say he is, he's fighting for his job. He's fighting for a contract extension. Can we expect our manager, who's fighting for his job, to play youth and put risk, if you like, increasing the odds of losing points, etc.?
It's true. And I mean, this season we saw it as well, because as soon as we started struggling, we weren't in a position where we could risk losing. So straight away, the youth were not getting a chance to play, which I would do exactly the same in Bilic's position. I'd like to think that next season we'd be in more kind of winning positions. And if we're 2-0 up in the 70th minute, why not pop a young player on or two? But I think it is difficult because it is a risk. It's always going to be a risk bringing on the new players. So hopefully it is doable, but I don't blame Bilic at all. If it's his last season potentially and he needs to prove himself, of course you're going to play the best players and the ones that you know already can perform rather than taking a risk or two.
Fantastic. Well, Holly, thank you very much for your call. Make sure you pop back on next season. Hopefully we'll be discussing the success of Reece Oxford or Martinez at West Ham. Thank you.
No
Cheers,
worries.
Holly.
Caller number 3, what's your name and what are you here to chat about?
Hi, I'm Greg Richardson. I'm just here to call about the sort of the rumoured striker links that we've been sort of reportedly to be interested in, and just wondering your guys' view on which of the strikers named, if any, you think we should be going after more than the others, or whether actually we don't necessarily need to bring one in. Because there was a piece in the Blown Bubbles magazine about the idea of that I wrote, that the idea of keeping using Antonio as a striker and looking for a more creative type instead, to be a winger instead, rather than going out and trying to spend money on a striker, because we've not been that successful in our striker recruitment recently.
Well, we'll talk about. Well, firstly, we'll talk about the targets that we have been linked with, or the bids that we know of. What one's tickling your fancy? It sounds like the 2 top targets are Batshuayi, Iheanacho. Which one of those 2 would you choose if you got the choice?
I think of the 2, I'd look at Iheanacho. I'll call him Kelechi because I'm not sure how to say his surname properly. But yeah, Kelechi I think would be my choice, because by all the rumours, it seems like if we went for Batshuayi, it would be a season-long loan, whereas Kelechi, it would be a signing with maybe a buyback clause in it. And I think so long-term, he'd be the better investment. Plus, Batshuayi mugged us off last time for Chelsea anyway, so I'm not overly keen.
There's still 2 months until the season, so everyone's quite calm. However, what I think is going to affect our strikers is Everton. Lukaku said he's not going back to Everton. Imofsky looks like he's going to Chelsea. Now, that means 2 things for me. One, Everton's now got money and they need a striker. We all know which one's available at Manchester City. And 2, they could also try and get Batshuayi involved in the deal, which sees Batshuayi going up to Goodison Park on a loan. Now, let's say Everton managed to do them both. Okay, let's say Everton managed to get Batshuayi on loan as part of the Lukaku deal, and they went and spent half the Lukaku money on Iheanacho as the long-term replacement. Would you be hitting that big red panic button just yet, Greg, or are you quite calm?
I mean, we've been linked with others. I'd be calmish, but I'd be a little bit aggrieved that we've missed out on both of our main targets, really. I think I've seen us linked with Modeste, I think, in Germany today as well. I had a quick look, as we all do, on YouTube at what he looked like. He seems mobile enough and he's got strength, but I'm not sure he offers what we need. I think we need someone that can run in behind a bit more than what we've currently got. So I wouldn't be hitting the panic button, but I'd be slightly annoyed that we've let them both slip through our fingers.
Gonzo, at the start there, Greg said he wrote an article saying that we should actually focus on a creative player and play Antonio as striker. Curveball that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he could do. I think we need another creative player anyway, as you know. I think there'd be absolute murders if we didn't sign a striker, it would be absolutely mad. The fans would just be going mad, because it would be that second season where really it hadn't happened, and I just can't. I just think it'd be very, very bad. I think you're sort of hanging on a cliff edge with it. I think last season there was the promise. We courted Lacazette, we courted Batshuayi. It didn't happen, and we know what we ended up with. Don't need me to tell you again. And I think if we very publicly, not publicly, but you know what I mean, it seems to be common knowledge what our two main targets are, and you've already just mentioned them there. And I think if we get neither and we end up with somebody else, then I really do think that the boards are going to be in for fierce criticism. So regardless of whether that Antonio thing happens or doesn't happen, I do think he probably will end up playing centre forward at some point. I do think we need to go out and invest in the striker. But just what Greg said there about someone running in behind, I've been quite consistent on this as well. I think we're crying out for pace. I really, really do. And I think that has got to be at the top of our list, because Bilic plays a counter-attacking style. So whoever that quick guy might be, that's who we've got to go and get.
Last question, Greg. You said that you thought we should maybe get a creative player. Who's on top of your mind now? You must have someone that you're thinking, oh, we should go get.
I'd love us to go out and try and get Ross Barkley. I really, really would. I think he's someone that could fill that void that sort of Payet's left. I had a quick look at sort of chances created and stuff that we've done. Our conversion rate last year was something like 12%, I think, of all the chances we created. But I think I'm not saying we shouldn't buy a striker at all. I just think the panic that people would go into, I think Antonio could do a really good job if he was trained properly. And I know there's no real evidence so far that Bilic can hone a player from one position to another. But I think if we got a coach in that could train him to play as a centre forward, I think he'd do a really, really good job. And yeah, if we had someone like Barkley in, sort of pulling the strings and playing him through, he's got that pace, he's got that strength, which is everything we're looking in the player that we're signing or hoping to sign. I think the two could sort of dovetail quite well, but whether we've got any shot of getting Ross Barkley, I really don't know. But he'd be my ideal signing.
Fantastic. Interesting choice that, actually. It's a real curveball. But Greg, thank you very much for your call. I appreciate you taking the time. And I'm going to go read that article now. You've got me intrigued.
I'm going to read it as well. I'm looking for him. He clearly knows what he's talking about.
It's on the back page. It's on the back page.
Take care, Greg. Good night. Thank you for calling.
Cheers, thanks very much. Cheers, thanks. Bye.
Well, Gonzo, that's our 3 phone calls. Did you enjoy that tonight?
Yeah, good. Yeah, very good. Enjoyed that. Yeah, looking forward to getting some of those people on the channel a bit more as well. You know, it's nice to have some people involved. And yeah, the last shout was certainly very good, wasn't it? Antonio up top, that'll get people talking a bit.
Well, you guys there, let us know your answers to the sort of what they phoned in with. So we have the youth. Holly wants to see Oxford and Martinez. What youth players do you want to see? Let us know below. We also had David saying that he wasn't quite sure that 11 truly reflected last season as a whole. And then, of course, we have Greg saying maybe we should have Antonio up front and split the money between a striker and a creative player rather than go for 2. Strikers. Anyway, that's it from. Oh, hang on. We've got one more call, Gonzo. Are you ready for one more call?
Hey, one more call. Who is it?
I don't know. Let's find out. Last call.
Gio, Gonzo, I can't believe that I came on. I called in to talk to you guys. And the one thing I didn't mention was our summer annual, which is coming out a bit later on this month. So the first season we did it was by popular demand, people saying that, you know, coming end of May, we've got so long to wait to the new season. Can you do it as a summer annual? And of course, I gave it a try, and that was a huge success. This is our 3rd summer annual. It's a bit expensive at £10, but it is definitely worth the money. It's going to be 160 odd pages. We haven't quite got down to the final page number yet because we've last few pages at the printers at the moment. But it's going to be huge. So as with every summer annual, we've got a massive, big, in-depth interview with David Gold. We've gone through all the controversies that we've had over the past season. We've gone through them all. And to his credit, he's done absolutely amazing. We're going to out a new West Ham fan, someone who's quite famous. He's quite well known. He's national TV most weeks, and he's come out as a West Ham fan. You'll be able to find out why he's a West Ham fan in the summer annual. And of course, mixed in with all that, we've got the best and the big interviews that we've had over the course of the season, and all of the great content that our readers know and love. So I know that the link is going to be in the description, so do have a look at that, check it out. And hey, if you're going to get the summer annual, why not go the whole hog and get the subscription, as Gonzo does? He's got proudly displayed on his wall next to him there. So why not check it out, guys?